Jonathan Sacerdoti, who's Director of Communications for the Campaign Against Antisemitism. So this is local politics. Would you agree, Mr. Sacerdoti?
We did some polling of the Jewish community last year and found that 84% of Jews considered boycotts of businesses selling Israeli products to be intimidation. Now, that's an enormous number when you think about that 84% of the British Jews polled. Similarly, the government has long said that it's against any kind of boycott of Israel. Of course, the British government and the British nation has very good bilateral connections with Israel in all sorts of areas, whether it's healthcare, where Israel leads the way in many arenas, whether it's intelligence, whether it's knowing how to deal with the Islamic jihad that is not only a threat now to Israel, but is also encroaching on Europe and the rest of the world. Israel is a world leader in certain areas that the rest of the world is catching up on, realizing it needs help on. It is, of course, destructive to that, as the government has said, when there is this political effort within small local councils or within NHS trusts or the like, or even within universities, to try to imply that Britain has its doors closed towards Israel. But above all else, Jewish people feel very threatened by these activities, and that's what the government seems to be acknowledging here.
Doesn't a local authority have the right, though, to make its own local democratic decisions?
Well, I suppose that's up to the government, and the government's saying it doesn't in this particular example.
Let's get John Hillary back into the conversation. Mr. Hillary, you're hearing about the survey that was done by my other contributor. How do you react to the findings?
Well, I think there are lots of different views in the Jewish community, and certainly the Jewish groups that we work with are absolutely foursquare behind this type of action, and they also believe, as I said before, that it was this action which has been so successful in previous campaigns to bring justice, like in South Africa. But what I want to say is that this is actually not a done deal as yet. The Conservative government has put out this as a suggestion, and there's a public consultation going on at the moment, and we're encouraging people actually to make their voices heard. If you feel that local democracy is worth saving, then you can take action. You can come to the War on Want website or other websites and put in your view to the government as to whether you think this is a good or a bad thing.
How would you respond to that, Mr. Sacerdoti?
Of course, I'm all for people making up their own minds, and that's really one of the efforts of the Campaign Against Antisemitism through our website at antisemitism.uk is to help British people get involved when they feel that the Jewish community is being unfairly persecuted. And when you see people, outside Jewish shops and the like, trying to stop customers from going in, it's easy to understand why so many people do get in touch with us, concerned about this idea of boycotts actually not really being a political statement, but one that, whether deliberately or not, does make many Jewish people within Britain feel threatened. So we're obviously very grateful to those people that stand with the Jewish community and try to defend against those and other threats to British Jewish life, and against other threats that make people feel less secure within the country, not just Jews, but also non-Jews who realise that the targeting of minority groups like Jewish people is often something that heralds worse times for other minority groups and indeed for everybody in general. So the government really in this instance seems to be saying that they believe that in this example the boycotts of Israel can have that effect on the Jewish community.
You wouldn't want a community, Mr. Hillary, lastly feeling that it was in some way put upon or fearful, would you?
Absolutely not, and War on Want is absolutely clear. We are against anti-Semitism and all forms of racism, but this is nothing to do with that. This is about Israel, a nuclear state, the most powerful state in the Middle East, crashing down on a Palestinian people who have been dispossessed and pushed into poverty for years and years and years. And I think it's really bad for different representatives of groups from within the Jewish community here to start suggesting that this is an attack on Jewish people in Britain. It is not.
John Hillary is Executive Director of the campaign group War on Want. Thank you. Jonathan Sacerdoti is Director of Communications for the Campaign Against Antisemitism. So where do you stand on this proposal by the government? It's not law yet, but they're seeking to make it, so we'll take your reactions to that.